You arrive in Marwin. You're dropped in the Hlaalu village of Sedanine with a single task. Report to Caius, Grand Spymaster of the Blades. When you find him, he's just some shirtless junkie hiding out in a dark corner of Balmora. Just how committed is he to the bit? Is it even a bit? How did he get here? Well, I can't give you a definitive answer, but we can headcanon our way into an interesting adventure. Before being stationed on Vardenfell, Caius was first tasked with infiltrating House Hlaalu on the mainland. You can tell it was the past because he has more hair. Every NPC has a class, and Caius is no exception. You might think he's an agent, or a rogue, maybe a scout, but he's actually the best class in the game. A monk. UESP says he's a monk service class, but that just means he's a monk who offers services like training. Chipmunk is also a monk service class, but is a little different. Unlike Chipmunk, Caius isn't beholden to any arbitrary restrictions. Yes, he's skilled at hand-to-hand combat, but just because his fists are legally recognized as lethal weapons, that doesn't mean he's above using less biological arms. See, monks are also skilled marksmen and bluntsmen. You wrestle him to the ground, and then you execute him with a pinpoint-accurate bolt to the head. But none of this matters if his cover is blown. After making preparations, gathering gadgets and gold, Caius heads for the mainland, not as Caius Casades, but as Cicada Osseous, House Hlaalu's next up-and-coming star. This message is sponsored by Raycon. I like listening to things. To exist in a formless abyss of silence is a thought both unconscionable and unsettling. I need background noise, but I also like to be able to hear what's going on around me, which is why I've been using these Raycon bone conduction headphones. Their off-ear design doesn't diminish my hearing of the outside world, and instead transmits sound through vibrations in my bones. Now I can listen to podcasts, music, or the radio howl of the cosmos while cooking, doing chores, or running errands without becoming unaware of my surroundings. It feels like I'm listening to a portable speaker that only I can hear. With 13 hours of battery life, these headphones are built for all-day use, and they're IP68 rated, meaning they're sealed against dust and prolonged immersion in water. Perfect for sweat, rain, and wandering the ashlands while in search of a certain kind of bow. Mother's Day is right around the corner, and if you're looking to get your mother a gift, go to buyraycon.com/jbnbc to get 15% off their bone conduction headphones, and maybe get a pair for yourself. Thanks Raycon for sponsoring this video. We start our mission in the city of Balfoyan, formerly Indithran. To maintain our cover as a flimsy middle-aged man, we make a quick purchase at the local trader, the humble cane. What's one man's accessibility aid is another man's concealed weapon, except it's a cane, so it's not concealed. To join House Hlaalu, we enter the Hlaalu Council Manor and have a word with this dapper fella, Drainos Helvi, kinsman of House Hlaalu. Not that high of a rank, but higher than us, for now. He's got some business with us, but we're going to start with smaller fish. Nalvina Balin at the Port Authority. Items have gone missing in their warehouse, and some workers believe they may have been stolen. But Nalvina is more inclined to believe the workers are just careless. Hlaalu Rule of Acquisition number 211. Employees are the rungs on the ladder of success. Don't hesitate to step on them. See, it's recommended to belittle your employees. Make them feel like they could be replaced at a moment's notice. It's not the thief you're mad at, it's all you lazy workers who are trying to hide your disappointing conduct by blaming hypothetical thieves. The fine glass plate is easy to find, is right here in this crate. But the next two items will require a bit of platforming. Atop these barrels, over to the crate, and down the alcove we find a patented Hlaalu goon cave. You know, where their goons like to hide from their managers. In here we find King Edward, Part 5, a book, not a man. Finally, the bottle of vintage Goya. With a bit more platforming, we discover a conveniently placed potion of telekinesis. And what is that right over there? Why, it's a bottle of vintage Goya. If only we had some means of extending our reach. Levitation magics would have made all of this pretty trivial, but having a non-magic means of collecting the items is a nice touch. I hope the Tamriel Rebuilt team adds more platforming in future updates. Sure, they're easy to circumvent, and easy to miss, in a world where you can fly, but they're fun. What if Bethesda made a game that focused heavily on platforming? Oh, and they could make the combat insufferable, that'd be a blast. For finding the missing items, Nalvina gives us a diamond, a ruby, and a sapphire. 2/3 of Gen 3 and 1/3 of Gen 4. The Hlaalu really know how to greet an Outlander. But rather than sending us off on our next task, she points us back to Drainos Helvi. Go talk to Nalvina Balin first. God damn it. She's the chief clerk of the Balfoyan Port Authority. She could always use an extra hand, and she pays reasonably well. You'll find a bit of... Dumb bastard. Nalvina now needs help concerning a shipment of Kwama eggs. A new shipment got mixed up with an old shipment, and the old shipment is starting to go bad. They failed to rotate their stock appropriately. You're supposed to put the old stuff at the front, and put the new stuff in the back. That's how it works in the produce department, at least. I assume it's the same for dairy. Or do Quama eggs count as meat? We need to find the rotten eggs, remove them from the warehouse, and count how many fresh eggs remain. Simple enough. It is odd that one of the Quama crates contains Sujama, though. There are 20 crates, 3 of which were spoiled, and 1 contains Sujama, meaning there are 16 crates left with good Quama eggs. That's math. I knew those student loans were worth it. Our reward is 200 Hlaalu fun bucks, redeemable at any Hlaalu kiosk. 10,000 and you can buy a mountain bike. Now that she finds us more reliable, she tasks us with finding a shipment of grief. This lady and her alcohol. Every task so far has required us finding alcohol. It was supposed to come out of the nearby Savrethi Distillery days ago, but there's been no sign of it. Worse still, the captain set to export it is getting impatient, and if the shipment is late, there'll be a ton of paperwork to file, and then the unthinkable. The captain will demand compensation. Hlaalu rule of acquisition number 3. Never spend more for an acquisition than you have to. South of Balfoyan is the Savrethi plantation, and after a bit of asking around, the buck is passed off to Garrus Savrethi, who passes the buck off to his brother Saris. Brothers Saris and Garrus. How creative his parents were. Rather than wandering off on a wild goose chase, we employ our Hlaalu talents and pass Garrus a couple bribes to save time. Remember, time is money, an unofficial Hlaalu rule of acquisition. A shady mer by the name of Soren, not to be confused with an evil lieutenant with a penchant for digit-based jewelry, came round to the distillery offering Garrus a way to triple their profits. Sensing a nefarious scheme, Garrus told the mer to kick rocks, but he can't be sure his brother didn't fall for the promises. Garrus knows a Komonotong member when he sees one, and if anyone was one, it was Soren. Soren. We should be able to find him in Dunusi, the Dunmer It's a cavern west of the Savrethi Distillery, southeast of Manan. Now you may be wondering, if it were so easy to triple one's profits, why wouldn't the Savrethis already be doing it? Well, you see, the operation Soren is running out of Dunusi isn't all that sophisticated. They're basically just watering down the rum. Soren and Saris came to a head when the former informed the latter that the extra profits wouldn't come without effort. Soren expected nobles to work for their money. Can you believe it? Now the Hlaalu thing to do would be to extract the goods by force. Throw hands, technically speaking. But Caius, Cicada, is still learning the ways of the Hlaalu. Instead, we fork over a small bribe to buy out Saris' stake in this little business venture. With the shipment now on its way to market, we return to Nelvina and are confronted with a choice. Either tell the truth, exposing Saris' attempted bootlegging. Is that bootlegging? Whatever. Or do we lie to protect him? Well, we don't owe him nothing, so...
They did what? Well, it's too late to stop the shipment this time, but for the future, I'll need to find another supplier. That should teach those pretentious fools a lesson. Take this payment. When you're ready, I have more business tasks for you.
Hopefully the Savrethi Distillery didn't rely solely on Nelvina's business, because they just lost it. I'm sure the rest of House Hlaalu will hear about this. The Savrethis are about to get review bombed. Buoyed by our allowance of 200 more Hlaalu fun bucks, we're more than excited to do more business with Nelvina. Our next job is simple. Deliver a letter to Glaucia Rumaril in Old Ebonheart. On our way to the Ebon Tower proper, we ascend one of the West Curtain's towers and find not only a gorgeous Colovian tiger helm, a welcome addition to any monk's attire, but also a Colovian Siegebreaker Arbalist, a crossbow that does 45 points of damage. The enchantment it comes with is okay, but the fact that it's enchanted at all means we can use it to hit normal weapon immune enemies. Spoilers, this will be a long-term weapon. Unsurprisingly, the Ebon Tower is a maze, one grand enough to make Wolverine Hall look like a McDonald's playplace, which don't exist anymore.
Emperor, King, and Justice, citizen.
As you were.
We find Glaucia in the Curia and deliver the letter. Nelvina had expressed distaste over a proposition Glaucia had made to the Hlaalu Council in Balfoyan, so she sent us specifically to help sort out this issue. If we succeed, Glaucia won't have to bother with the council at all. Gerardus Tilianus, the scribe just outside her chambers, came to her looking for work. Everywhere he asked, he was turned away. The bank, the East Empire Company, the customs office, the harbor offices, the private manors, the Burgrave. I don't even know what that is, but that's a shame. Dude can't catch a break. It's probably just because he's lazy and, by extension, an immoral degenerate deserving nothing but contempt. But worry not, Gerardus, for you are in luck. After scrolling through a few dozen self-indulgent, AI-generated LinkedIn posts, we've discovered Fothressa Aravel of the Fighters Guild is struggling with far too much paperwork. Sharnoga greenlights the request for an assistant, and we bring the news back to Glaucia. With that nitpicked, she sends us back to Nelvina with her own written reply. An interesting feature in Morrowind that doesn't see much application in the base game is seal reconstruction. Some of the letters you have to deliver are sealed with wax, making it evident that the message was tampered with, if it was tampered with. With the security skill, you can reseal these letters and read their contents without the recipient being any the wiser. If we read the letter Glaucia sent, it reveals that she wanted Gerardus to be the chief clerk in Balfoyan, something Nelvina evidently did not want. Perhaps she has aspirations for that position herself. Unfortunately, the mechanic of resealing letters is a bit pointless since you can just quick save, read the contents, then quick load, avoiding the risk of failing to reseal the message. Nelvina gives us 200 fun bucks and a letter of recommendation which we're to bring directly to Drainos Helvi himself, when we have the time. But she's actually got one more task for us. Investigate a forged trade license. A ship from the East Empire Company is anchored here in Balfoyan and would like to trade within the city, but the captain's license doesn't match the copy the city has on file. Captain Borga is understandably frustrated, and she's been coming to Nelvina every couple days to scold her, but recently she's gone too far. She's threatened to sue the Imperial authorities. If there's one thing the Hlaalu don't want, it's the Empire sniffing around in their affairs. Hlaalu Rule of Acquisition number 85. Never let the competition know what you're thinking. The less the Empire knows about House Hlaalu's business, the better. You might not think the Empire is their competition, but everybody's competition in the world of business. We speak with Captain Borga and get a copy of her alleged license. It reads that it was issued by Tirani Dareth on behalf of Sergio Tholarandis and Great House Hlaalu. Tirani says the license looks familiar, and it's likely legitimate, but she doesn't have the Great House's copy. Instead, we should speak with the House nobles, starting with Mance Horaran. Mance looks over the license and finds no copy in her records. Perhaps Nelvana Salero handled this case. We'll find her in her underling's manor. Hlaalu Rule of Acquisition number 113. Always have sex with the boss. Zalin is shocked that we have a copy of the license, but is relieved upon realizing it's the captain's very own copy. You see, he went through a lot of trouble hiding all the house copies of that license, so you can understand his surprise. He wasn't privy to the reasons, but Asimus Todros had instructed him to hide all the copies so that Captain Borga's ship couldn't sail away. Arresting the captain, he says, would be in the best interests of House Hlaalu, but he can't be sure why. There's got to be something strange about the cargo on that ship. Let's go check it out. Aha! A Velk. These creatures are sacred. Their nectar used for brewing Punavit, a ritual spirit. Only House Inderil is allowed to own Velk, so what is a Nord captain doing with one? In Hlaalu territory, of all places. When we confront Asimus with this information, starting with a bribe of course, he attacks us, saying that the Kmonotong have a good thing going on here. About time we saw some actual combat, so here's the strat. Punch the enemy until they fall over, whip out the crossbow, and gun them down. It's slow going right now, but hand-to-hand levels up fast. Once it's in the 70s, we'll be dropping folks with just a few punches. The reason this works so well is because downed enemies are 50% less evasive and take 50% more damage. They're literally sitting ducks, except they're not ducks, so not literally. They're also not sitting. Nelvina says it was good that we killed that Kmonotong member, but she advises we be careful in the future. The Kmonotong are not to be trifled with. She gives us a dagger for our defense. Be careful, here's a gun. It's not like we need anything more than the old 1-2 and a crossbow. As for the Velk, who cares? That's someone else's problem. Let's go chat with Drainos Helvi. Oh, we apparently accrued a 4 gold bounty. I hadn't realized. We ought to pay it so we stay in the good graces of the law. Surely we won't lose anything of significant importance.
No, my hat. We lost our hat.
Seems that was the only thing. Surely. So Helvi would like us to look into a matter concerning trade. I'm shocked. Tola Saravam's caravans have been delayed, and they're stuck in Arvud, and Helvi suspects the town's governor is overstepping her duties. Arvud is a small settlement out in the Armen Ashlands, serving primarily as a rest stop for caravans passing through the area. But why are we here in Arvud if Helvi said Tola is one of Balfoyan's most influential merchants? Why aren't we at the Golden Moons Club where he said she'd be? Because I'm a YouTuber, and I don't know how to read. I read Helvi's dialogue out loud on stream, but if there's one thing I've learned doing YouTube this whole time, if you're reading something aloud and trying to read correctly, you're not going to remember a word of what you're reading, because all of your attention, all of your focus, all of your mental capacity is going to saying the words that are in front of you. Popcorn reading in school, reading things aloud in school, great way for nobody to know what's going on, at least if they're all smooth-brained like me. Before realizing I wasn't supposed to come here yet, I did a bit of speechcraft grinding with Napatu, a local armorer. The fastest way to level up speechcraft, aside from buying training, is spam admiring NPCs, but I went another step further. OpenMW allows you to open the persuasion menu with the interact key, in my case the E key, and then if you press the E key again, you admire the NPC. So by spamming the E key, you get a bunch of speechcraft XP. But what if you rebound the activate key to mouse wheel down? That'd make it even quicker. But this is to go even further beyond. Infinity Scroll. Speechcraft is one of House Hlaalu's preferred skills, so having it at a high level will help us rank up in the house. 60 is good for now. Alright, so back in Balfoyan, we speak to Tola Saravam, who is indignant that anyone would dare ask her for additional dues Doesn't the governor of Arvud know who Tola is? She runs the most respected caravanning business between Kraganmore and Balfoyan. What does the governor think? That she's dealing with some feckless Redoran Gwar herder? No, this is the Tola Saravam, and if there is any corruption to be had, she will certainly not find herself on the losing side of it. Oh, the shipment of food she was sending to Kraganmore was diseased, and the governor's steward was simply looking out for Tola's reputation. Altruism. In my Hlaalu, Armis suspects the culprit is Anbaris Irathi, a newcomer in town who's been a bit too nosy around all the incoming caravans. Greeting, Anbaris. My, what handsome glowing red eyes you have. Might I inquire as to your knowledge of the sabotaged food shipments, my fine gentleman? It was Mel's Mathin of Balfoyan who paid Anbaris to commit this devious act. Mel's wanted to get rid of a rival, but we outmaneuvered him. How Mel's repays Anbaris for his failure is of no concern to us. Tola vows to get back at Mel's for this trickery, but hopefully she remembers Hlaalu Rule of Acquisition number 88. Vengeance will cost you everything. If it wasn't obvious by this point, I'm aping the Ferengi Rules of Acquisition. For handling this bit of business, Helvi gives us 500 Hlaalu fun... Oh, no, he gives us 500 gold. Imperial fun bucks, more readily accepted in numerous places. Now we gotta figure out what happened to one of Balfoyan's merchants. Gavros Phallus has gone missing. His name is Phallus. When we go to his home, we see it is tinged with a spooky red. Probably fine. He's got some pricey tastes. Ash statue. That ain't a good sign. And skooma. Caius has heard stories about this stuff. Its effects are quite potent. Gives you a boost of speed and strength at the cost of your mental faculties and your coordination. Non-Khajiit don't handle it too well, but how bad could it really be? It's like really strong coffee. A little bit of skooma here and there for a bit of physical enhancement. Can't be too problematic. We'll keep it on us just in case we need a pick-me-up, for work purposes. Here in Gavros' desk we find a threatening letter telling him either to fork over his goods or skip town, or else. Ominous. Asking around, we learn that he usually hangs out at the Dancing Cup, just southeast of Balfoyan's temple. While his nephew is here, says Uncle Gavros came to Balfoyan to make his fortune among the Hlaalu. Honan tried to warn him that Marwin would chew him up and spit him out, but Gavros was that one uncle who was always broke but never stopped trying to get rich. In the stupid ways, that is. It's that uncle who keeps spending his money on shitcoins because he made $500 on Dogecoin, like 5 years ago. Anyway, Gavros sent a letter mentioning Darain Naver, an Indral trader on Amasthyr, and also a contact he's planning to meet with in the cave Mokobal. He's worked out an arrangement of smuggling ash statues, but not even the Kimona tongue would touch his merchandise. Odd. Smugglers not wanting to smuggle. Mokobal is pretty close to Balfoyan, located on a small island just east of the city. Gotta do a cool 180 spin first. Smooth as butter. So we've got a pretty standard smuggler cave here.
Oh no, that man is dead. Probably. You okay? Nope, he's dead.
According to his journal, he came to this cave to meet with Darain, the Indral trader, but he doesn't know what she wants from him. He only hopes the Indral have finally seen reason. What could he have possibly been planning? We'd better bring these ash statues back to Helvi. We might not know who killed Gavros, but this should be a good lead. Helvi takes the statue to be destroyed, and says it would probably be for the best that this little fiasco stay under seal. Smugglers getting killed is bad for Hlaalu business. What, are you surprised the Hlaalu have their hands in legal and illegal trade? Hlaalu Rule of Acquisition number 62. The riskier the road, the greater the profit. Having done enough business with Great House Hlaalu, it's about time we rise up through the ranks. We're skilled enough to reach the rank of Oathman. We've more than proved ourselves capable for higher ranks, but we still need a bit more experience before we can rise any further. But this is good for now. We've helped out Drainos Helvi enough that our reputation has spread to the upper echelons of the city. Our assistance has been requested by Tholorandis himself, or his steward at least. Ulvis Ules, on behalf of Tholorandis, is trying to get a new inn up and running in Omanus, a Hlaalu settlement in the Rothroran region west of Balfoyan. There was a time when it was part of Redoran territory, so you can understand what sort of trouble would be caused when the town's governor hires Redoran contractors. Conflict of interests? Surely not. Exhibit A of why you shouldn't trust contractors from House Redoran. Look at this shoddy work.
I'm gonna grab the water walking ring. I don't know what that is. It's handy. Aren't all rings handy?
We'll get the ring shortly. First, we gotta speak to the governor. Alvura Omain had contracted out builders to construct an inn so the townsfolk wouldn't have to go into the mines to have a drink. But after announcing this to the people, the builders inflated their price, pushing Omain back to square one. So the residents pooled their resources and hired their own contractors from Redoran Landarans. The governor put a halt to the project, but the Redoran workers refused to leave unless the town buys them out. On top of all that, Nalvor Omain, Alvura's brother, no longer wants to work as the inn's publican, so we gotta find a new one. What a mess. Personally, I wouldn't have a bird with a giant mouth running in, but that's just me. That was dumb. You can tell which jokes I make are ones that just pop into my head as I'm reading the script, and which ones I actually, put effort into when writing. That was one of them. To do this job, Nalvor wants more than his sister is offering. Meanwhile, their cousin, Olvis Olmain, is more than willing to take up the role. But he's more than just a cousin. He's a disowned cousin. It's such a shame because the disowned cousins are always like the most chill of the cousins, but they have done some things that, they're disowned for a reason. Everyone has a disowned cousin. And if you don't, it's you. We may be able to get Dholorandis to press the governor into choosing Olvis if Olvis offers a share of the profits to the Balfoyan bigwig. While we think on it, let's get that handy ring. It's inside this shipwrecked ship at the top of a mountain for some reason. The flood really sent Noah off course, huh? The ring is in the possession of this skeleton. Marwin Skellies love rings.
Where's my crossbow? Oh, because it was stolen. Oh no, they took away my crossbow when we got caught.
The Seafarer's Ring. A simple ring with a constant water-walking effect. Not game-changing, but it might be convenient to have one on hand. Handy, if you will. Caius may be a monk, but Cicada Osseous is a bit of a secret agent, so it only makes sense that he'd have gizmos and gadgets aplenty. Enchanted items are just sci-fi fantasy tools, so yeah, that's one of his gizmos. A universal lockpick might serve him well too. I'm sure James Bond had one. We'll keep that in mind going forward. Back to the inn. I think the first thing we should get sorted is the Redoran laborers, who refuse to leave. They demand payment of 100 gold each, enough to buy them out of their contract. Dunny Lothran tells us to pay their foreman, Irvin. But if we lie, and say we saw him collecting gold from one of the locals,
you will suffer greatly.
They all just turn on the guy and kick the shit out of him. They probably didn't actually believe me. They just wanted plausible deniability to beat up their boss. So that's one problem solved. Regarding the publican, Avuru says that if Nalvos agrees to the job, he'll not only run the inn, but he'll be the owner. If he promises to invest the profits back into the town, that is. Not something Nalvos is interested in. Omanus needs more attention than the meager profits of an inn can afford. Honestly, I'm not even sure what Nalvos wants. We'll circle back to this. Ultimately, it doesn't matter who will run the place if you don't have the place to run. We need to hire new workers. Milnes Lauren and Balfoyan should be able to help with that. But while we're back in town, we should fetch the stolen crossbow that was stolen from us. We'll find the evidence locker in the Imperial Commission on the western side of the city. First door opens with ease on the first try. The evidence locker, however, that'll be trickier. This room is full of witnesses, but the key is hanging right there on top of the desk.
That's the key I need. Oh. Stealth.
Having 35 sneak does help. Damn, it's the wrong key. Vault key? Nope. Court record key? Also no. None of these keys work. Why doesn't the evidence key open the evidence chest? Is the key just evidence? Surely the vault key opens the vault. Ooh, nice. Time to rob these morons blind. For the good of the Empire, of course. Eminent domain, or whatever. Ah, more emergency skooma. Tasty ebony. Glass gear. The armor rating is higher, but Kagudi hide just... look at it. Fashion is more important. Could still sell the glass, though. Here's what we'll do. We'll use all this loot to pay for our 100-point open enchantment. Then we can return here, open that chest, and get our stuff back. But all this loot is heavy, and that's where the skooma comes in. A universal lockpick doesn't require a huge soul to function, certainly doesn't need a golden saint soul or anything, so we venture out of Balfoyan to find a ghost or a skeleton as a soul trap. The enchanter in the Balfoyan's Mages Guild sells restocking soul gems, so we don't have to worry about wasting them. After a bit of shuffling with Rexus Harsinia, we earn enough gold to create Akasha's Inconspicuous Ring, an extravagant ring with 100 points of open on touch, excellent for getting into all those hard-to-reach places. Then we recoup the loss by selling back more of our expensive loot. A funny thing I discovered is that this guy is really easy to cheese. With only 23 mercantile and his disposition maxed out, we can sell him gold bars for 900 gold and buy them back for 600. Infinite money glitch, if a little tedious. We're not going to do it. Just funny that it's possible. With the ring, we return to the Imperial Commission, crack open the evidence locker, and steal back not only our arbalist, but also the snazzy tiger print Colovian fur helm. No man left behind. Negotiating this new contract with Milnes Lauren should be much easier now that we have a gun. Milnes knows Dholorandis has his fingers in this inn affair, and she has no interest in aiding his corrupt schemes. Unless we give her $500. Or we could come to a different arrangement. If we get Nalvos Olmain to run the inn, she'll hire the workers for free. Why? Because spite, that's why. If Nalvos runs the inn in Omanus, it would deal a blow to Andis's plans in Omanus. With how much infighting there is in House Hlaalu, you'd think they were just a bunch of Telvannis who couldn't figure out how to do magic. But Nalvos is still being indignant. That makes this decision simple. Olvis gets to be the publican. As arranged, he'll pass the profits off to Dholorandis. As for Milnes, we give her $500. We let the governor know that all the moving parts are in moving order, and return to Ulvis Ules to let him know the job is done, earning 700 Imperial Fun Bucks. On to more business. Tirani Dareth, the banker who signed Captain Borga's trade license, remember? She's been arrested in Bodrum. She was doing some business, got a bit drunk, and did some things she probably shouldn't have. Of course, House Hlaalu doesn't want one of their members incarcerated by another great house, so some of her powerful friends have arranged a plan to rescue her. You'd be forgiven for thinking that we were to assist with this breakout operation. But the truth is, Thorandis would prefer Tirani to stay in custody. She's been meddling and causing problems for the Counselor. It's our job to make sure the rescue attempt fails. Before heading out, he gives us 2 invisibility potions and a letter from Milnes Lauren. A letter that was meant for us that Ule's intercepted. We are to meet with Nightblade Galessa Arethi in the Varalaran trade house of Bodrum. She will use her invisibility amulet that she's keeping nice and safe on this unguarded table beside her to sneak in the basement of the Ramaran Manor and smuggle Tirani a scroll of Omsivi intervention. A sound plan. But what if she didn't have that amulet? Sip the invisibility potion, wait for the right moment, fail to swipe the amulet because sneak in this game is goofy, and then finally swipe the amulet. Without it, Galessa will surely fail, especially since she's going to carry on with the plan nonetheless. She'll need our help though, more so now than ever. Good luck. Ule's gives us 500 gold for a job well done. We also get to keep that invisibility amulet. While we were gone, one of Thorandis' spell swords, Clavis Faragian, was arrested for the murder of a Kimona Tong member. Can you believe it, killing somebody who's in the Kimona Tong? The Tong in Narsis demands he be shipped south to face trial, although it's likely he'll never actually make it there. The prisoner will be lost, if you know what I mean. A house hearing has been called to decide whether they should protect the spell sword or send him on his way. To protect Clavis, we must secure 3 of the 5 counselors' votes. Mance is easy. Raise her disposition. Her husband wants money, 3,000 gold. Bribe her with 10 gold. She thinks the vote itself is a waste of time, but at least she's getting something out of it. At the time I didn't realize it would be that easy, so I went to Milnes Lauren's manor to dig up some dirt. In a locked chest, we find a glass battle axe, which we'll sell, and a note outlining her plans to undermine and perhaps even assassinate Thorandis. I would normally say this is ludicrous. Why would someone write down their secret plans? Their nefarious desires? That would be silly. But given recent events, yeah, people totally would. We confront Milnes and persuade her to vote to protect the spell sword, in exchange for the documents we found, of course. Having acquired 3 votes, the house agrees to protect Clavis and not hand him over to the Kimona Tong. Thorandis is pleased, so pleased that he would like to reward us personally. We just gotta find him in this maze of a manor.
Oh, Ebony. Every time I love this room. This is my favorite room in all of Tamriel rebuilt.
If I were a bug, I think I'd want to be a bumblebee. Upon finding Thorandis, we see he's brought Milnes Lauren to be a part of this meeting as well. The conspiracy Milnes had been perpetrating was, to the surprise of millions, totally obvious to Thorandis. His men are loyal, and his information network is extensive. To think his most trusted guard could so easily be bought. What a grand and intoxicating innocence. How could she be so naive? As a reward, Thor gives us not only 3,000 gold, but a pair of pauldrons, supply and demand. One fortifies mercantile by 10 points, the other speechcraft by 10 points. And they don't look half bad neither. I hope they add another Hlaalu item. It's like a gauntlet that casts invisibility, called the Invisible Hand. That's an economics joke. So that's the last of Balfoyan. For now. We may be back later. Before leaving Balfoyan, we're going to pop into the Imperial Cult's local temple and buy some restoration training. Excellent.
Fuck is this?
There's a small Hlaalu side quest out east in the fishing village of Golmok. Normally I'd just skip it, but the reward is decent. Bull Salvani wants to expand his wine business, but to do that he needs to give 1,000 gold to Rothis Thaler, a publican in Almasthir. Once this fee is paid, Rothis will serve Bull's swill, his delicious wine. He has a few suggestions for how he got the gold, each option somewhat illicit, such as stealing from an integral brewer in Vol. But ultimately we just need to get 1,000 gold to Rothis. It doesn't matter how we do it. It's easier just to shell out the money ourselves. Bull gives us his crossbow. It's not very strong, but the enchantment is interesting. On cast, it grants 10 points of marksman for 30 seconds, and 20% chameleon for 30 seconds. Who can say how much sneaking we'll be doing? I don't know. But if it comes up, this puppy's gonna do some heavy lifting. There are several Hlaalu quests in Hlaalu, and although they don't really lead to anything super exciting, we're still gonna do them if only to gain reputation points with the house itself. I don't want to have to stop halfway through the Narsis questline because we can't rank up, or something like that. Because these quests are sort of side quests, we'll run through them quick. All the rewards are gold, so we won't have to stop to explain any of that. You know what gold is. But just in case you don't, it is a metal that we've mined in the real world that has gained quite a significant fan base, I would say. And evidently it has an innate property which makes it superior to paper money. There's some kind of value that's intrinsic to it. Who'd have guessed? Feldril Sathis, house brother of House Hlaalu and governor of Hlaalu, gives us a sealed letter to take to Sabotage in Almasthir. The contents of the letter is written in some kind of code, so it doesn't really matter. Sabotage takes the letter and sends us back to Sathis, confirming he'll carry out the orders. The Spirit of the Neen, a supply ship sailing from the south, must be allowed to pass through an Indoril port without hindrance. As pious as the Indoril like to frame themselves, even they aren't above taking charitable donations.
Honestly, do I have to spell it out for you? A Hlaalu? I'm asking for a bribe. Gotta bribe him too?
We throw her $100, and she promises to look the other way. A gang of smugglers working out of Yadamsi must be made to pay tribute. You gotta pay taxes on your ill-gotten gains, even in Morrowind. When I was a kid, there were 2 brands of coffee syrup for flavoring milk. 2 brands I remember, at least. Eclipse and Autocrat, which is a wild name in retrospect. I was probably 5, 6, 8 years old when I noticed Eclipse was owned by Autocrat. I like to think this is how House Hlaalu works. You have 2 options. Get the stuff from the smugglers, or get it from the house. Regardless, you're giving money to the house. Makes me wonder who's actually running all those MMO gold farms. Dallas, the leader of the smugglers, says he's already been paying Vig to Captain Sover Dothril, but Dothril hasn't been sharing it up the ladder. We persuade Sover to waive the tribute, return to Dallas and collect the 5,000 gold fee they owe the governor, return to Hlaalu with the 4,000 gold, and finally give the governor the 2,500 gold we got from the smugglers, paying us 500 gold for the effort. Now we gotta fetch Councillor Atrin Orin's ebony battle axe. It's been stolen. Normally the axe comes from the Orin plantation to Hlaalu by road. It's then loaded onto a ship and sent along to Narsis, where Councillor Orin's trusted weaponsmith resides. The return trip is the same, but this time Feldril gave the axe to a group of bandits masquerading as Orin's retainers. He didn't even realize he was tricked until the real retainers showed up, whom he had to assuage with a little white lie. We travel northwest to the Armin Pass outpost, where we ask around for information regarding any strange individuals with an even stranger axe. Bala Dralor says they tried to sell her the axe for 30,000 septim, bit too rich for her blood. Before they left, she heard them mention a place called Runat. We ask for directions to this cave, and it's the scout Farino Undreno who points us in the right direction. It's not a stone's throw north-northwest from Arvud, within the Armin Ashlands. It ought not come as a surprise that once we arrive, we've got a crew of bandits who we have to unalive. Now, I only said unalive because it fits the rhyme scheme. I'm not censoring myself, it was artistic license. We kill them. We kill them all. Every bandit is dead. Dead and rotting. Vano Demori has the axe. She tried to kill us with it. It damages fatigue on strike while fortifying the wielder's attack. Neat, but I've always felt attack buffs are better suited as constant effects. To get the axe back to Orin as swiftly as possible, Feldril has us run it to the plantation ourselves. And if the counselor asks, we say the ship from Narsis was late. We have a choice to make. Blame the ship, play dumb, tell the truth, or hold our tongue. We do Feldril a solid and throw the boat under the bus, and Orin pays us 1,000 gold for the delivery. If we'd told the truth, we'd have gotten 3,000 gold. And to what end? Orin already knows what really happened. Sabotage is dead. Everyone in McKinney is dead. The Indoril got to the kitty and took his codebook. Feldril suspects the book is somewhere in Roadir, possibly in the hands of Ranor Tharis, an Indoril scout staying at the layover post. Take a long, hard look at this place, my fellow Falaz. When the Poison Song update is released, Roadir will no longer look the same. As we've already learned, the Indoril aren't above taking a bribe here and there. Raising Ranor's disposition high enough makes him hand over the codebook without much fuss. What's the use of a codebook without a key anyway? The final job Feldril has for us is framing a foreman for Moida. We're to go to the Ilvi mine, steal the foreman's silver dagger, kill Endros Dilman, and plant the dagger on his corpse. The rest should take care of itself. Infiltrating political factions is never easy, and sometimes you gotta sacrifice a few paupers to get to the prince, as they say. But actually, Endros attacked me first, so... Othmoro's up next. This is some of the newest Tamriel Rebuild content. It was released back in May of 2025, alongside Narsis, and the surrounding Shipple Shin, Othroleth Woods, and Coronati Basin. Our first bit of business to handle is with Idros Rothrano, steward of the governor of Othmora. First, something simple. He wants us to gather 30 Hammam roots, 10 Corkbulb roots, and 20 Ashiams, all of which we can buy from the farms on the banks of the Thyr. I think this quest is just an excuse to get you to wander around the new countryside they've added.
Wait, how many hams do I need? 20. How many do I have? 10. There's numerous farms. Yeah, but why can't I just, order from Amazon? What is this? Oh, isn't this charming? I feel like I'm about to get attacked by an alligator. Yeah? Okay.
They look like Alf. It took a minute to find all the produce vendors, but at least the farmers aren't narcs who refuse to sell to me while I'm carrying skooma. With the shopping done, we return to Othmora and drop off the groceries, ready for our next task. Fetch a letter from Governor Rowler Sodrano in Idethran. Idethran is just up the river, not far from Lake Andoram. The governor gives us the message and sends us back to Othmora.
What is this supposed to be, Cicada Osseous? The seal on the scroll has been broken. What? I didn't read it. This is the one time I didn't break the seal.
Well, it seems we're stuck losing some house reputation. What a shame. Time to return a slave. The guards recently captured one trying to cross the Thyr, but they don't know who their owner is. We find the slave, Jasadar, detained at the toll house, and he refuses to divulge any information. So we have a few options. Investigate further and find the slave's owner, convince Sodrano that the owner cannot be determined, and we can resell the slave for profit, or swipe the key from the toll house and hand Jasadar a scroll of divine intervention. Oops, looks like Jasadar escaped, Rowler. Can't be helped.
Needs to get rid of a troublesome bard. We free a slave and we get to beat up a musician? Awesome. The governor has been troubled by a bard who's recently started playing at the High Wall Corner Club opposite the governor's mansion. The bard seems to be stirring up the townsfolk, and they've been making a lot of noise when passing by the mansion after leaving the corner club. Oh, I totally would beat this shit out. Okay, this is their car guy.
We talk to Talms Beleth, the bard, and pay him to play the Song of Sendel the Noble, a song about a thief stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. By asking a guard about Sendel the Noble, we're directed to their commander, Vibius Verturius, who says Sendel the Noble is all too real. He's an outlaw who operates out of the Othroleth woods and robs anyone who passes through, rich or poor. The Othroleth ain't the easiest to navigate. Getting lost is simple, but once we find Enar Sothron's shack, we're only a short walk away from Sendel's palisaded bandit camp. Let's disband these bandits.
Oh no, they've killed Chipmunk. Oh no, it's an orc skull. It's okay.
With everyone dead, we search inside the suggestive tents and find Tom's loot. The only explanation for why it's here is that he too is a bandit. Yep, it's good enough for the Corner Club's publican at least. She tells the bard to make like a tree and piss off. Now Idros would like us to speak with Artissa Rethan, but only after reaching the rank of lawman of House Hlaalu, which Drainos Helvi is more than willing to grant us. But to progress even further, we're gonna need a sponsor. No, we're not breaking into another sponsor segment. We need an actual sponsor in House Hlaalu. We gotta talk to Crassius Curio. What do we gotta do to earn his favor? Strip. Take everything off, even the hat. He raises us to the rank of kinsman, and then house cousin. He would be leering at his cousin. Back to the mainland. Artissa is a devout follower of the tribunal. She believes in the power of charity, but the pack mule she sent to Ald Yuval has yet to return. It's a Redoran settlement, so something may be afoot. That seems to be the Guar, so at least it's not dead or anything. The Redoran are simply refusing to let the supplies into the town. They suspect this is a ruse to wrest control over House Redoran's last holdings in the Waters March region. To prove House Hlaalu's honor, we challenge Baltoy to a duel, and win handily because we punched him a bunch. Also, we shot him in the ass with a crossbow, thus proving our honorable intentions. The Guar may enter Ald Yuval. Having proved that House Hlaalu isn't out to steal land from House Redoran, it's time to work towards stealing land from House Redoran. We'll do this by sowing distrust between Ald Yuval and its neighboring Ald Marak. We return to Ald Yuval and enter the Cog Hotel, the place that cogs like to stay when they're on vacation. I don't know what Cog Hotel means. Kind of like a council hall, I guess. On the lower levels of the Cog Hotel is their vault, within which many valuables are stored. Rewards for only the most discerning of secret agents.
Oh, things. With so many coins to choose from, how do I decide which cryptocurrency is right for me? You should pick the most recent one with the stupidest name. There's nowhere it can go but up, so obviously. Just pick somebody that you like the personality of and buy their crypto coin. Nothing will go wrong. That's why this month I'm announcing JBN coin, Noise coin, and then next month I'll be going to jail.
Here we're looking for Coronati's Hindsight, a warhammer of great symbolic value to the people of Ald Yuval. Once we swipe it from the correct vault, we take it across the river and drop it in Delis Lethri's chest in the Ald Marak Cog Hotel. Artissa's little birdies tell her the accusations are already flying. Now we must investigate a matter regarding Vibius Verturius, captain of the guard. He's been summoned to an inquest at the Imperial Commission in Balfoyan. Artissa doesn't care what this is about. Vibius is an excellent commander, and doesn't need these distractions, nor his reputation sullied. To learn more about this inquest, we visit our local library. We sail up to Balfoyan and confront Genonia Melodus, the Imperial Magistrate. Vibius was part of the failed attempt to retake Fort Firemoth, the necromancer-controlled Imperial fort on the Saros Archipelago. Sirius Cinna, Vibius's former commanding officer, is now placing the blame solely on Vibius, seeking to change his honorable discharge into a dishonorable one. Vibius claims the failure was due to Cinna's incompetence. He recalls a brilliant scribe who accompanied them on this mission, Farasad. This scribe took meticulous notes, but he perished when the TEM Chrysanthropus shipwrecked. Chrysanthropus. It's a long shot, but his journals might still be somewhere in that wreck, and there's only one way to find out. This island is in pretty rough shape. It's bare bones, but it's home. Brilliant serendipity. The diary remained just above the water, allowing us to take it all the way to Narsis and drop it at Cinna's feet. Happy that the new information came to light, he agrees to drop the inquest, but he asks us to hand over the diary to help him write his autobiography.
Could you hand over the diary to me? No.
And with that last task, Artissa gives us 1,000 gold. Ooh boy. There's still quite a bit Caius, Cicada, has to do here on the mainland. We haven't even touched all the Hlaalu content in Narsis yet. You know, the Hlaalu capital, but I mean, how many quests could be there? We have one more side quest line to do before going there. This one given by Laros Samalsi, governor of Shipal Sharai, a once prosperous mining town that's fallen by the wayside as the sapphires lost their luster. The townsfolk keep petitioning the governor to address their grievances, and he's sick of it. What do they expect him to do? Govern? Endris Romori is the loudest of the rabble, and we'll find him in the local corner club. He claims the ancestors are mad at them. Ghosts are spilling out of the firm ancestral tomb, and they're haunting the townsfolk. Something happened in there. Something bad enough to draw the ire of the interred dead. But when we go there, it's worse than we could have expected.
Oh, it's full of bugs.
3 grasshoppers. Death is the only reprieve Dunmer get from bugs, so when they show up in their tomb, it makes them right angry. Endris trusts that killing those hoppers was enough to quell the spirits, and gives us some booze and a gem as a reward. Laros' business partners are being harassed by rules and regulations, being enforced by the local Legion patrol. He says to not be surprised by the type of Mer they are. I have no idea what that could mean.
It's just a Dunmer. He's just a regular guy.
Whatever, maybe it's a social class thing. Anyway, due to the inspections, Hlaaru's caravaner has landed herself in the Septum Gate prison. He would like us to find the documents incriminating her and swap them out for his forgery. Simple enough. The man in charge around these parts is Quinctius Malleus. And if the Kimona Tong. The type of Mer is, his business associates were members of the Kimona Tong. Okay, I thought he meant like some sort of other race of elf. Cicada may be trying to ingratiate himself with the house, but the Tong is too rogue of a variable for the Empire. It's bad enough that Morrowind is full of powerful dynastic factions. Now you want the factions to have underground sub-factions? I don't think so. Although I guess a sub-faction would be underwater, wouldn't it? So we don't get a reward, but Laros will still do business with us. Now we get to play debt collector. Gildren Dovalas, the former foreman of the Shipal Sharai mine, owes Laros 1,500 drakes. The rub is, Gildren ain't got no funds. Can't squeeze blood from a stone, as they say. Instead, he says we can go into the mines and gather up whatever sapphires happen to be left in the walls. Then we can use that to pay back Laros. I don't think he owns the mine, so I don't know how this would actually settle his debt, but I guess we could just tell Laros Gildren paid up, do the guy a solid, and steal sapphires from whoever it is that owns the mine. The mine contains bandits. This one has a glass weapon. Guess we found Gildren's payment. Oh, skooma. The last task we've got is handling some trouble going on down in Usaran. Shanathi clansmen raided a shipment of Flynn headed for the Legion fort, and the Imperials responded by swarming the camp in search of those stolen goods. Laros would have us find the Flynn and return it, preferably without any bloodshed. If the Shanathi don't cooperate, we're given permission to steal it. Laros condoning crime? I'm appalled. The Shanathi are a nomadic clan of Dunmer, but distinct from the nomadic Ashlanders we're familiar with. They primarily populate the arid plains of southern Morrowind, in and around the Shipal Shin region. I'm not sure how much of their lore originated from Tamriel Rebuilt, or even if this ethnic group is in the correct canon. Their most notable feature is their bright orange hair. We arrive at the camp, speak with Isa Yazubael, leader of the clan, and raise his disposition to at least a 90, at which point he reveals the Flynn is with Baba Harishi, in this crate right behind her. The guards don't need to know anything about this. Let Laros sort all this out. He takes the Flynn and awards us Shashamalmsi's Canyon Skipper, a light armor chest piece that grants 20 points of feather and 20 points of jump. That may not seem like much, but trust me, it is.
It's our highest jump. With full fatigue. Take the shirt off.
Wow. I have no idea how the math works out behind the scenes. Finally, we've made it to Narsis, capital of House Hlaalu. Here's where the quests start to get a little more involved, and there are quite a few of them, so this might take a bit. We start off in the Measure Hall, where we strike up a conversation about business with Elvinu Lervis. Guess what? We gotta collect a debt. Belron Hlaalu is the patriarch of the 7th Hlaalu family, and he's recently learned of a very old debt owed to his family by one of the lesser families. The Sadris family took out a loan 120 years ago, and it's gone unnoticed ever since. Unfortunately, the interest has caused the debt to balloon up to 2,102 septims, from a paltry 19. Now you might be thinking, wow, these Hlaalu, what loan sharks? How ridiculous must that interest rate be? Well, we could figure it out. We have all the information we need. For compound interest, and of course the Hlaalu would use compound interest, are you crazy? The equation is thus, where A is the final amount, P is the principal, R is the interest rate, N is the number of times it compounds per year, and T is the number of years. Supposing it compounded continuously, that is, N approached infinity, we just have this. A equals pert, where E is Euler's constant. About 2.718. Solve for R and you find that R is 1 over T times the natural log of A over P. Throw in the numbers and it works out to around 3.9 to 4%. Pretty good rate. Not as good as 0%, which is what you would have if you didn't take out the loan, but what's done is done. The Sadris family is located just up the river and off to the east, in the city of Sadrathim. Dorena Sadris is taken aback by the request. She refuses to pay the debt, but offers a little something a cousin of hers picked up at auction back in Balfoyan. A shard of the Sadanine's prow. The Sadanine was a boat. A brilliant boat covered in glass. A testament to House Hlaalu's wealth. It sank. We'll take the shard. Belron Hlaalu had glass piercings all over his face, so he'll probably love this. It was a fake, but Belron didn't really care about the money. He just wanted to flex on the lesser family, put them in their place, let them know who's boss. Next, we must break up a strike among the Measure Hall's clerks. Ah, yeah. This is the Hlaalu shit I was expecting. Let me get my Pinkerton brand ice pick. Oh, she wants us to handle this via subterfuge by framing the labor leader for fraud. Why did I even buy the ice pick? Alright, so first things first, we need a blank payslip. But the Measure Hall is a maze, so we might get turned around a few times. I wandered into a locked office and found a soul gem containing a golden saint. When in Narsis.
Skylamp. Oh, right, those things. Oh, they killed one.
Ah, here we are. We pay a simple copy fee of 50 gold, which probably isn't a bribe, and then spend a good 5 minutes trying to find the damn thing among all the books. It's right here. Alvinu forges a fraudulent slip, which we bring up to the clerk's office to plant in the labor leader's desk. Asking around reveals that the leader is Saravi, a tall kitty cat. She also has plantigrade feet. I think she's a Cathay Rat. For reference, the base game Khajiit and Morrowind are Suthe, and in Oblivion and Skyrim, they are possibly Cathay, but we did have a discussion on the Discord somewhat recently, and it's possible Oblivion's Khajiit are Cathay, and Skyrim's Khajiit are Daji Rat. It's never been confirmed, but the Skyrim Khajiit do look like lynxes like the Daji Rat. Regardless of her fur stock, she's interfering with House Hlaalu's desires to pay their clerks with Hlaalu funbucks, so she must be eliminated. We intimidate her so she walks away from her desk, we drop the slip in the drawer, and we tell the nearby guard that Saravi has a fraudulent payslip. He believes me, of course, because I'm an upstanding member of House Hlaalu and he's a massive racist. As thanks, Alvinu teaches us to be more personable, granting us 2 points of personality. And all we had to do was frame a person for a serious crime. There's been a robbery in the market quarter. Sanus Debuntus believes it was the Kimona Tong, but this kind of a robbery is uncharacteristic of the Tong. I know, right? A dark elf and a Nord barged into his shop demanding protection money. He paid them, but they still swiped a bunch of his finest glassware. Those scoundrels. Obviously, this wasn't the work of the Kimona Tong. They'd never let a Nord into their ranks. Mentioning this to a member of the Tong verifies our suspicions. This was the work of another group. We informed Tong life-taker Ovrami Hellerin of these matters, and she suspects it was the Janata Syndicate, an upstart criminal organization from the east, the Dreslands. The Syndicate's shtick is a drug called Grey Dust. Addictive, damn near toxic, and nowhere near as tasty as sweet, sweet skooma. Sojourn gals outside the Catcatcher's Hall should be able to help us find these culprits. There's a grotto called Gulmebi. He's seen smugglers going in and out daily, 2 of which are a Dunmer and a Nord who always travel together. Kissing. I think we have our guys. At the end of the dungeon, near this dead priest, is a parcel labeled Sanus' stolen goods. Love me some fastidious thieves. Always label your stuff. We bring the goods back to Sanus, but shucks. His 850 gold just wasn't there. I think it actually wasn't, genuinely. Alvinu is shocked that the Syndicate would be so brazen as to work right in the heart of Narsis. They're getting bold. But for now, we must investigate a curse that's been placed upon the Fortuna, the Kimona Tong-run casino overlooking the river into the city. To prevent any interruptions, we take a quick detour north to Balfoyan, where we request advancement from Tholarandus. He promoted us to the rank of Housebrother, but not further. To cover our bases, we power level our speechcraft against Surmus Tolvor. Damn, still need to do more duties. Alright, back to Narsis. Vervin Othrin, big boss of the casino, believes a luck-altering spell has been cast upon the place, and it's giving all the patrons an advantage. Ilvrin Hlaalu is the obvious culprit, he says, but he's not sure what he did. The bartender says he heard something down in the storage room, a weird noise just before the curse began. Investigating the storage room, we eventually find an out-of-place urn behind all these crates. Opening it, and we're attacked by a ghost. Killing the ghost lifts the curse/blessing from the Fortuna, and to prevent Ilvrin from doing anything like this again, we tell his mom. Seriously, we're gonna tell on him.
Mrs. Ilvrin's mom? He planted a ghost in the Fortuna to sabotage the Kimona Tong.
She doesn't take our word for it. If what we say is true, then he must have stolen an urn from the Grand Hlaalu ancestral tombs. The caretakers there should be able to confirm if they've seen him around. Timain Morales says Ilvrin left with his great-uncle's urn not too long ago, but he never returned it. The classic dead uncle prank. Traces all the way back to the first era, you know. So Dreru wouldn't take our word that her son was a miscreant, but she takes our word that a caretaker said he did the things a miscreant would do. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not making fun of Tamriel Rebuilt. This is 100% in line with how Marwin quests work. Tamriel Rebuilt just replicates it flawlessly. A man who was going to testify against a member of the Janata Syndicate died recently, and the Hlaalu suspect foul play. Some rando, Murith Arlen, claimed responsibility for the murder. But this whole situation reeks of a fishy situation, making the initial situation reek of fish as well. Ah, we'll find him in Heron Hall, even fishier. Oh no, a prisoner is being eviscerated. I'll save you, murder suspect. As we figured, Murith was meant to take the fall for the murder in exchange for being led into the gang, but the Syndicate didn't seem keen on upholding that deal. As we escort Murith to Ruddy Egg Exports, we're beset by several Syndicate thugs. Easy to kill, naturally, but Murith is too. Protecting him was the tough part. Once we get this idiot to the egg place, he promises to testify against the Syndicate and gives us drugs as thanks.
Been requested by name for business at the Grand Hlaalu Ancestral Tomb. Something to do with Ilvrin Hlaalu's burial, apparently. Oh my god, they killed Ilvrin Hlaalu. He got himself killed by the guards, if you weren't aware. After Sir Dreru chewed him out, he went back to the Fortuna, tried to burn the place down, and refused to yield to the law. Oh my god. It's all very sad. But honestly, given how he was acting, it was probably just a matter of time. Anyway, they didn't give me many details, so you should talk to Timain Morales once you get there. He's the tomb's head caretaker, and should know what's going on. Yeah, that's the smart thing to do. Try to burn down a building run by the friggin' mafia.
Once Ilvrin's remains were interred in the tomb, his spirit materialized and began attacking, screaming about vengeance like he was a slain king from High Rock. He even recruited a bunch of his ancestors to join his uprising. If they were to breach the door of the tomb and make it to the city, it would be a bloodbath. Jeez, this place is loaded with ghosts. They weren't kidding about the ghosts being a lot of ghosts. Imagine how effective a few AoE fire spells would be right now. Scroll of Hellfire would rain hellfire. At least once they're all double dead, we can loot with impunity. I want the pretty ebony. The caretaker gives us the Ring of Barricaded Flesh, granting frost, lightning, and regular shield for 15 seconds. Pretty good. We'll never use it. The Hlaalu Council Company is putting some stock up for auction, and we need to sabotage the competition. A bidding war would be detrimental, but there are only two major concerns: Rivis Salavo and the Beacon Company. The Number Club can help solve the first problem. The second involves some light vandalism. We'll start with the first. The Numbers Club is a gambling organization. Sometimes they place bets on a person's survival, and sometimes those persons die. Money changes hands, and all is settled. They aren't hitmen, they're gamblers. To place a bet on Rivis Salavo's survival, we must first do the club a favor. Some in the club have wagered 2 servants at the 6th Family Manor are engaged in a love affair. We must bring back evidence one way or the other. Speaking with the servants in question, obviously, grants no leads. But if we bribe Pafine, she admits to have seen them being all giggly together, and even saw Voldam slip Ellen a letter. We break into Ellen's apartment in the St. Veleth Quarter and ransack the place until we find the love letter right out in the open that I somehow didn't notice immediately. This should be enough proof. Satisfied, the Numbers Club allows us to join, and they allow us to place a little wager. 12,000 septums on Rivis Salavo's survival until the auction. He tells me this should provide satisfactory results. If he survives, we win the bet. If he dies, we lose 12,000 gold. Maybe there are some members in the club who will bet that he dies. Maybe they can arrange for that to happen. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I really like this Hitman organization setup. I don't know if it's a novel, but I've never seen it before, so it's pretty neat. To handle the Beacon Company, we first need to get our hands on a couple bundles of flash grit. It's a heavily regulated resource, primarily used by miners for blasting apart rocks. The Tanner and Miners Hall has some, but they've got it under lock and key. We have a universal key. Storing explosives in a wooden chest is ill-advised. We better get rid of this, post-haste. The question now, do we evacuate the ship first, or let the High Elves sink in the drink? I guess we should do the noble thing. For a small fee of 100 gold, Aketh Taris with the Port Authority draws up some paperwork to force the elves off the ship. So once the ship is empty, we go below decks and place the flash grid on its support beams. Not before checking for loot, obviously. Look at all this gold bullion. It's heavy, but we've got ourselves that sweet Khajiit treat. Need some Mazte too, for extra strength. An upper for the boost and a downer to take the edge off. Rivis shouldn't be a problem, and the Beacon Company will be too preoccupied. The Measure Hall should now have no issue benefiting from the upcoming auction. A reward for finishing Alvino's final quest is a pair of gilded glass greaves of freedom, a strong piece of light armor that grants 30 points of feather, 10 points of jump, and immunity to paralysis. And the armor rating on them ain't that bad either. Before moving on with more Hlaalu business, we've got a whole lot of loot to unload. Rex's Harsinia probably isn't the enchanter with the most base gold, but he can also repair armor, so I like coming to him. First, we use that golden saint soul we got a little while back to make a pair of stamina pants. Constant effect, restore health 1 point, and restore fatigue 2 points. Will it save us in a fight? No. Will it keep our fatigue topped up after hopping around between fights? Maybe a little bit. It only costs 20k, so he still can't buy all the loot we have. There is a merchant in Narsis with 12,000 gold, but he's also got 100 mercantile. He's the master mercantile trainer, actually. Our mercantile isn't nearly high enough to get a good deal from the guy. Unless... 50 mercantile sounds good for now. Dravos Turil, proprietor of Exquisite Goods, will buy all of our loot for about half their maximum value. That's fine. Remember that idiot who tried to burn down the casino? He was part of the 6th family, and if we go to his mother, she's actually got some business for us to do. All the Hlaalu families in Narsis have minor quests for us, basically 2-part adventures. Not every ordinal number is in Narsis, however. There's the 1st, 2nd, 7th, and 6th. We're starting with the 6th. Greetings, Sodreru. Shame about your dead son. Need me to do anything? Deliver a bonus to her subordinate, Shannis. Easy enough. We pick up a gilded glass bracer from the vaults beneath the Mesa Exchange, and take it to Shannis's... Oh, an Argonian noble. You don't see many of them in Morrowind. Here's your bracer, sir. Next is a reverse delivery. Sodreru is expecting a letter from Cyrodiil, but it's been delayed. The Census and Excise office says they haven't received anything yet, so it's possible it was held up at the border, and it's stuck at Septim's Gate Pass.
Lore-wise, what's preventing the player from leaving the province? There isn't a lore reason. Well, the gate's closed. Oh, nope, never mind. Haha, no gate can stop me. Uh-oh.
There's discrepancies in the paperwork, normally requiring the sender to come and amend the errors, unless a bit of gold were to somehow fall into Sasane's open hand. 10 bucks reveals it was only a minor clerical error. She gives us the letter and the accompanying care package, 1 robe to ease burdens, and a Nibonese katana. Sodreru isn't happy with the correspondence. She calls the gifts a joke, and she lets us keep them. If we broke the seal on the letter and read it, we would have learned that Sodreru is a bit homesick. The 6th family is primarily situated in Cyrodiil, but her presence is required in Narsis for the sake of the family business. It must be tough on her, especially since her dumbass son died 2 days ago. Well, that's that for the 6th family. The quests aren't super earth-shattering. 2nd family's up next. Saritha Hlaalu needs us to collect some money. Floris Othralis manages some of the family's properties in Narsis, and there's an issue of a late payment that needs looking into. He claims the delinquent payment is due to 3 tenants not having paid up in full. Each owes 385 septims each. I worded that weird. They're all merchants in the Great Bazaar, and since NPCs have no schedules in Morrowind, that's where they'll always be. Omen Darothan says business has been slow. If we buy a set of Hortator playing cards for 25 gold, he'd have enough to make the rest of the payment. Sure. Why not? Vaults the Wall can't pay right now because he's waiting on an invoice to come in from the shipment of ceramics he sent to the arena. Arena Master Films just trusts that we're here on Vault's behalf and gives us 250 gold, allowing Vaults to cover the rest of his rent. Ulveni Salavel claims to have already paid, but if we intimidate her, she relents and pays what she owes. Floris takes the outstanding funds, and we'll get the total payment owed to Saritha sent over immediately. Saritha would now like us to deliver a letter. Always with the letters. It's meant for Fethis Hlaalu in Riverkeep, and we must make sure he reads it. Riverkeep is just outside Narsis, south across the water. The Duke takes the letter and decides that he must respond immediately, but he needs ink and a quill, which we have to fetch from his desk. Just walk to the desk, dude. How are you supposed to write without a surface to... She's upset with his insubordination. He responds by begging for an audience with her father, so that he may find a seat at the council once again. And that's that. Her father must be an important fella. Belron Hlaalu of the 7th family, who we've met already, we collected a debt for him. That narrows it down. A suspicious letter from one of his adversaries is en route to Narsis. It's in the hands of a lecherous Bosmer named Randian. We should find him at the Desert Rose Bordello.
Yes?
While he's distracted, we are to steal the message and bring it back to Belron. The letter is placed neatly on the bed. Yoink. The next task on the docket is recovering a piece of the Sadanine's priceless wreckage. His retainers tracked the fragment down to the Balk Grotto, but when they tried to retrieve it, they were driven off by Dreg. If we succeed where they failed, we'll have Belron's deepest gratitude, and perhaps an equitable reward. Oh, thank God, it's an actual cave, and not one of those nightmare Dreg strongholds full of crab buttholes. We kill the 2 Dreg Manowars, and collect the wreckage shard just below them. To repay us for this priceless artifact, Belron trains us 5 levels in Mercantile, and we'll have a discount when doing business with Dravor Turl, the merchant with 12,000 gold. Teraldin Hlaalu, of the 1st family, got word that his son Sathane needs help in the catacombs, that maze of sandstone down under the city. Of course the Hlaalu would have offices in a tomb. Sathane would like us to investigate the odd noises he heard in Endeavor's Lament the other night. He's far too busy to look into the matter himself, of course. He's got papers on his desk. After a good 20 minutes of wandering and getting nowhere, we happen across the corpse of Lydimus Barrow, near what appears to be an open wall of the tombs leading into the Narsis sewers. This is disquieting news, Sathane says. We must tell his father. Teraldin says he's aware of the sewer breach. It was the result of an architectural error, one that occurred long before Sathane was even born. Every time he's brought it up to the council, they've blocked his proposal. He suspects either his cousin or Vizier Peronis are responsible for the delays. Teraldin wants us to help convince the city council to repair the breach. Fortunately, it's very easy to get the Hlaalu to do exactly what you want. Bribe Gindrala Dionith to begin petitioning the council to start the repairs, then do a little favor for the Vizier. One of his informants has been speaking to the wrong people, so she needs to be silenced. Permanently. She seemed like a member of the Komonotong. Peronis agrees to let the repairs go forward, and Teraldin awards us with a Spear of Transcendent Wisdom. A terrible spear with a bland enchantment. We'll sell it. Okay, that's all but the final quest line left for Great House Hlaalu. I didn't expect this video to be as long as it is. I was expecting like 55 minutes. Oh well. We want to advance to the penultimate rank, Councilman. But to do that, we must first build our stronghold and reach the rank of Housefather. The stronghold stuff is part of the base game, and it's honestly not all that impactful. I've never cared much for player housing in most games, beyond what benefits they can impart upon me. So let's blast right through this. Dondros Driller, in Balmora, tells us to get a construction contract from Duke Vadum Dren and buy a land deed from Baron Allen, the Dunmer Flash, in the Hlaalu Vaults of Avec. We can actually barter the deed down from 5,000 gold, so that's neat. We return to Dondros, wait a few days for the stronghold to begin construction, travel to the stronghold and see the foreman, return to Dondros and wait some more. At this point, we can choose what business we want running out of our stronghold, but that doesn't matter. We've done enough. Dolorandus promotes us to Housefather, 1 rank below Councilman. To become Councilman, we must speak with Vizier Eravin Peronis and see what he would have us do.
Half-Life 2 has a bunch of unskippable cutscenes that are pretty annoying. I haven't played Half-Life 2 in a while, but yeah, you're probably right, if I remember correctly. I think those sorts of things work better for sequels, because you're already kind of invested. Clanner's Lab, Black Mesa East, the Gravity Gun tutorial. Oh yeah, a bunch of cutscenes. Really, a lot of those things aren't a problem on a first playthrough either. And most people just play a game once. I understand. This is why I don't do, like, critical reviews, or, like, I'm not critical of these things. Or like, why I don't participate in grievance YouTube. Because my experience with these things is ultimately going to be very different than anybody else's experience. And I don't think my frustrations in my niche experience of these games is an accurate reflection of the games, necessarily. Because these games aren't really made to be, like, super replayable. Certainly Half-Life 2 isn't. If the game is meant to be replayable and it adds that stupid annoying shit, then yeah, then I would criticize it. That's why I don't want to play a lot of the Metal Gear games. The Metal Gear Solid games. Because doesn't one of them have, like, a 45-minute cutscene? No, no. Your work is immaculate, but your skills are lacking. Your skills are lacking. Also, and you're ugly.
I think we need 80 Speechcraft. Yep, I thought I'd have to do more to get on the council, but apparently we just needed to be a smooth talker. Let's get to work becoming the grandmaster. Aetherius Hlaalu has sought a successor for many years. He believes we may be worthy, but we must first prove ourselves. To test our mettle, we must organize a hostile takeover of the Narsis East Empire Company. The East Empire Company is House Hlaalu's primary competitor. If the house can get a directorship within the company, or even minor voting rights, they would be able to influence the direction of the company from within. We shall achieve this by purchasing a massive amount of the company's stock, at an absurd discount, of course. Here's the plan. The EEC has an earnings report coming in soon. We're going to steal it and replace it with a less flattering forgery. It should cause enough temporary FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, to tank the prices, at which point we'll swoop in and reap the benefits from those without diamond hands. The stock market is like a roller coaster. It's got its ups and downs. The people who get hurt the most are the ones that jump off early, assuming you're not putting all your money in like one company. Mutual funds, hooray!
Wait, since there are stock markets in this world, that does mean they have like, maybe not modern economic theory, but they have... When was the first stock market? 1602 in the Netherlands? Yeah, and it was one of those trading companies, yeah? Like the East Empire Company? So the economics in Morrowind must be at least Renaissance, Dutch East Indies, yeah, those kinds of companies. What were those companies? You always hear about them and learn about them in history classes, but they never explained what they were. Although, I recently kind of came to the conclusion where being like, they never taught us that in high school doesn't feel like a good excuse, because it's like, well, you can just learn it. There's nothing stopping you from learning it now. But now I am. What were they?
They were a chartered trading company making their wealth by transporting goods around the world. They were basically a shipping company, but their monopoly was so over-encompassing that they had power not unlike that of a sovereign nation. They were able to wage war, mint currency, establish settlements, via the war thing. Answering the stock question, the Dutch East Indies Company was one of the first joint stock companies, and arguably the first multinational corporation. Anyway, the Landau came to the Purple Lantern on her way to deliver the earnings report because she wanted to have a little bit of goya, but the bartender cut her off. The nerve of some people. We buy her a bottle, and she immediately gets a bit too drunk. I guess that's why the bartender cut her off. As we're the magnanimous sort, we offer to deliver the earnings report for her. She's far too unwell to go out right now. The report details all the financial success the EEC has been having this quarter. They've had no issues with pirates out in the open waters, their debt position remains well managed, and they've suffered no significant losses. Stability is in the company's future. To forge a new report, we meet with a guy who knows a guy. Nalus Dorino recommends Raldin Gorin. He's a clerk working in the measure hall who's a savant for these kinds of things. Copying handwriting, forging signatures, reselling wax envelopes. Incredibly loyal, only acts on direct orders, and accepts Hlaalu fund bucks as payment. He takes the report, writes up a new one for us, and sends us on our way. No nonsense from this soul-crushed man. The new report outlines a few losses here and there. The fleet consists of only a few rowboats, they're drowning in gambling debts, and their drunk fortune teller projected uncertain stability. That is to say, instability. Once we deliver this report, we'll need to be ready to buy up as much as we can. So we need gold, and lots of it. So here's the plan. First, we sell as much as we can to Dravos. We're still sitting on a handful of gems and various ebony and glass equipment, but this only brings us to about 60k. We'll need to go out and collect more loot, which means hauling heavy loads. And you know what that calls for? Delicious skooma. The sewers are usually a good place to find illicit goods. Perhaps Brethis Girvu has some. No. But he does have an ebony longsword in the back.
Ebony longsword is mine. Oh, you saw me. They had somebody... Oh, wow, I actually got tricked by Chameleon. Holy shit. Wow. Sneaky, sneaky.
I have you!
Oh, so talking to Invisible Lady is punishable by death. Makes my job easier, actually. Clear them out and rob the place blind. Oh, he has moon sugar in the back, but he won't do business with us while we're carrying skooma. What a hypocrite. I know the Kimona Tong have a hideout in the Narsis sewers, and they're all about the skooma. They must have some. Aha! Found it. Just what we need to raid a vault. In Balfoyan, on the hillside under Andis Estate, there's a sewer grate. Through that sewer grate, and at the end of the sewer, past the crabs, the locks, and the strategically placed allet, is a level 100 locked door separating us from untold riches. Gold bars, glass armor, ebony armor, silver bars, but they're not worth the wait. Even with copious amounts of skooma, though, we're still struggling to carry everything. But that's what Mark and Recall are for. Recall back to Narsis, Civvy to the council quarter, drop the gold, and quickly run into Dravos' shop. First we buy a bunch of mercantile training, it costs hundreds of gold per level, but that investment will be worth it. With 70 mercantile, we get about 70% of an item's value from a deal with Dravos, meaning all 57 of those gold bars alone can get us 40k. We place a mark here, go back to get our stuff, recall, and get to selling. We finish with about 140k, more than enough to entice a fuddy investor. We deliver the report to the Mesa Exchange and wait for the chaos to ensue. Nothing actually happens. Morrowind is not that dynamic, but trading has been halted due to market conditions. That is, rich people might lose money, so everything's on pause.
Buy. No, wait, sell. It's complete pandemonium here.
Aren't you a sight? What can I do for you?
I'm a sight.
Harold Greymane has paper hands. He'll sell his entire portfolio for half he paid for it, for a paltry 100k, but we can barter him down to 65k. Raiding Thor's fault, it might have been unnecessary. Back at the Vizier's office, we learn that another courier arrived from the Imperial City to correct the record, and the stock prices are already returning to normal. This is why you don't put all your investment eggs in one basket. You diversify. That way, if there are some market downturns, the rest of your portfolio kinda shores it up. This is not financial advice. Our reward is a prototype Dwarven repeater, a new crossbow. It's weaker than what we've been using, but it has a much faster fire rate. The enchantment is silly. Fortify Marksman, 50 points for 20 seconds, at the cost of shocking ourselves for 25 damage. But check out the BPM on this puppy. That's bolts per minute. Perfect for a monk build, actually. Punch them to the ground, and then fire off multiple shots into their ass. Back to business. If we truly wish to become the next grandmaster, we must decide our stance towards Orvis Dren and his Kimono Tongue. Do we eliminate Dren and dissolve the Tongue, or do we convince him to work with us? If this is a prequel to Caius' tenure in Vardenfell, then it wouldn't make sense for Caius to have already dealt with Dren. Canonically, the Nerevarine either kills Orvis Dren, or at least convinces him to turn against Dagoth. So Caius can't kill Orvis Dren. That would disrupt the canon. Dragon Break. While we're here, we ought to top up our skooma reserves. We used up the last bit of it getting out of Thorlandis' estate, and it's been pretty indispensable during this whole mission. We don't want to not have any on us, just in case. It's a work necessity. Yeah. Shame we can't do anything with all this moon sugar, though. With Orvis Dren dead, we go to Ebonheart and have a word with his brother, Vadum Dren, Duke of Daggerfall, Duke of Vardenfell. I don't know if he knows that we killed him, but he agrees to support our bid to become the next Grandmaster, and now that he doesn't have to worry about him. Our reward is the crystalline sigil of House Hlaalu, a simple little amulet that teleports us to the second family's manor.
I don't know where to begin.
2 criminal threats still exist. Just because Orvis Dren is dead, that doesn't mean the Kimono Tongue died with him. Mervis Laurel, Orvis Dren's second-in-command here in Narsis, is still active in Narsis, and he must be taken out. Likewise, the up-and-coming Janata Syndicate would only stand to gain from the removal of the Tongue. Their leader, Kavatra, must die as well. Kavatra is believed to be within the Velothi Tower of Udanu, outside of Narsis to the south. We'll go there second. Mervis Laurel is in Brever Heights, and he knows we're coming. Every floor, he sends more of his goons, merely for them to die at our feet. Not confident enough in his men to leave his door unlocked.
Die, Fetcher!
Oh my god, this crossbow is brutal! Off to Udanu. There are 3 orc guards guarding the place, but once we punch them to the ground, they're easy to pick off one by one. Man, this build is so fun.
Wish there was a small pool of water that I can knock them down into. It'd be great if, like, on the roof there might have been, there could be like a shallow pool that the boss is waiting in. Then we could drown him in it. I mean, unless he could breathe water. But, I mean, what's the likelihood that he's an Argonian? That'd be weird. I mean, his name sounded... It is kind of like a... seemed like a Redguard name, so it's probably a Redguard. Alright, what was his name? What are we looking for? Yeah, Kavatra. Oh, well, no, that sounds Khajiit. Yeah, so either way. I mean, he's not going to be able to breathe in the water. It's fine. We'll just knock him down and... Well, assuming there's a pool up there, I don't... There's always a pool on the top floor.
Adamantium Warhammer. Could be useful for killing downed enemies really fast. We are running low on bolts, so it might be worthwhile to take this with us. A loot chamber. I suspect Kavatra is nearby. Scroll of Psychic Prison. Grand Soul Gems. Something tells me we might be able to soul trap Kavatra. Black Star Pendant. Fortify Blunt 20 points, Restore Health 3 points, and Fortify Strength 10 points. That's really good.
It's a weird looking Khajiit. Do you hope to join the Janata Syndicate? Yeah. Talk to it. Does he not realize? I feel like he should have something. He should be a little upset that I just murdered my way into this place. Can I tell him, like, why I'm here? And he'll be all like,
"How dare you try to kill us?
I assume that's how they talk.
You may call us this load. We know one another as worms or grubs or humans. For many grubs believe themselves the only truly human species, being perfect specimens of creation.
Alright, time to die, sausage fingers. With all of House Hlaalu's most immediate threats dealt with, it's time we move on to convincing the other counselors to support our bid. Evil Hlaalu, Tholorandus, Atranoran, and Atheres Hlaalu himself. Let's begin with Atranoran, the guy we met toward the beginning of the video. You know, the guy we met the first time you put the video on, but ended up falling asleep before getting to this point. For his support, he would have us eliminate an agent of the Twin Lamps. The Twin Lamps are an abolitionist group which, according to Orin, has been a small but persistent thorn in his side. His sources tell him one of their agents can be found outside of a cave called Ibanud. If we kill the agent, his bid is ours. Although Cicada is trying to go under the radar as an Imperial asset, he still believes in the Twin Lamps' cause. In fact, he wishes the Empire would put more pressure on Morrowind and abolish slavery as it did in the other provinces. Perhaps the Empire turns a blind eye because the mines that pull all the ebony out of the ground rely on slave labor. As it happens, slavery, even though outlawed within the Empire, fuels the Empire's war machine. Imagine that. Orin will be none the wiser, so we tell the agent to get out of here. She's got a target on her back. Oops, this was a test. Bekara was one of Orin's agents. Holy shit, dude, what if I actually killed her? Because we failed the test, he says he will only support our bid if we sign a legally binding document that prohibits the abolition of slavery within House Hlaalu during our tenure as grandmaster. Damn, we've been bamboozled. Little does he know King Helseth's gonna ban slavery in all of Morrowind anyway. Idiot. Tholorandus. To win his support, we must end the attacks of Indiro Lathsa. Generations ago, Tholorandus' ancestors lived in the Grand Chapel of Tur Julan. As an Indiro, in his own life, Tholar renounced his heritage and embraced House Hlaalu. Most have accepted this decision, except the spirit of Indiro Lathsa. We are to meet Tholar at Tur Julan in the Crossing of Wings. Either we convince the angry spirit to end her campaigns against him, or we banish her. Tur Julan. It's seen better days. Oh, look at Tholorandus, all decked out in his glass armor. No helmet though, for he is an important character and his face must be easily visible to the audience. As soon as we enter Lathsa's chambers, she berates us for aiding Tholar and mocks him for being a coward. We could try to convince her to back off, but I picked the more flippant dialogue option. So she attacks. She was a ghost, like a regular ghost. Whatever, we earned Tholar's support, and he gives us his battle skirt. Dispel on touch and restore speed on self. Terrible. Evil Hlaalu, for whom Hlaalu is named, is more heavily involved in the Imperial Legion questline, but he's still a Hlaalu counselor, so his support is important. He needs Felmaru Lendu of Alduval to sign an agreement with him. To guarantee this, we must find evidence of her cooperation with the Janata Syndicate. Not that they're much of a threat anymore. The record of her misdeeds is enough. We can either get the written agreement from within Udanu, where we just were, or we can break into her chambers in Alduval and steal it from her desk. We confront Felmaru with the documents and demand she accepts Hlaalu's terms. Or else. He demands full fleet basing rights and the right to search and seizure. What a tyrant, no wonder why his name is literally Evil. Evil agrees to support our bid, and as thanks gives us a leather-bound tome that we can't read without a higher level of intelligence. Boosting it with potions works though. The tome teaches the spell Greater Summon Skeleton. Cool. The final bid we must earn is that of the current Grandmaster himself, Atheres Hlaalu. Like Uriel Septim VII, he's been plagued by dreams. By prophetic dreams. He's seeing visions of a saint. Within a shrine dedicated to Malakath, somewhere within the Othroleth, a demon keeps a saint prisoner. The saint needs our help, but Atheres has no idea where to begin. Perhaps someone at the Eight Bones Temple can help. Resident mystical dream expert and oniromancer, Arulvam Hlorin, says the only shrine Atheres could be talking about is Kalkusara. There are two entrances, one to the Shrine of Malakath, and the other to somewhere deep below the surface. Unlikely to be what we're looking for, but if I remember this cave correctly, we actually want to take the optional path down. Goblins in a Daedric ruin. What an oddity. If you've watched my no spellmaking video, this place might seem familiar. The ruins lead into a nature-claimed cavern full of mudcrabs and yethgrubs, but if we continue onward, we eventually reach the old vestry and come face to face with Garth, the Goblin King. A reference to the movie Labyrinth, by the way. In that other video, we had hell of a time killing this prick. This time, we deck him in the schnoz and stick him with some bolts. I guess we didn't actually have to kill him since we don't need his key, but fuck him, he sucks. In this vault, there's lots of loot, but we're here for just one thing. The Thurgy-Doo. I've been told it's pronounced Theurgy-Doo, but Thurgy-Doo. Scooby-Doo, Scrappy-Doo, Thurgy-Doo. That question mark effect, it's 100 points of spell absorption for 100 seconds. Amazing. Alright, now to find that saint. First, we leave the dungeon and look for a different entrance. The shrine entrance, specifically. Grug the Ogrim is holding a Dunmer hostage. He will release his prisoner if we tell him a joke that makes him laugh. What do you get when you cross the temperament of a Gwar with the oratory ability of a Nixhound? The Kimona Tong! And then he attacks. With the Ogrim dead, we approach Telendralis and tell him how we knew he was here. It was the prophetic dream. He too has these dreams. In those dreams, the face of Saint Veleth beckons to him. He sees a shrine holding his spirit captive. He sees a warrior performing a ritual and finally setting him free. But it's dangerous here. We'll speak back in Narsis. Telendralis gets into the specifics of his dream. He saw a traveler bring 3 Kana feathers, a Gwar liver, and the scrying glass of the Satan Neen to the shrine of Saint Veleth in the Necrom catacombs. After placing the offering, the traveler drank Punavit and began to pray. A minute passed in what seemed like an eternity. Then, with a thunderous boom, the shrine was destroyed, and the face of Saint Veleth spoke directly to the traveler. But their will wasn't strong enough, and they were destroyed in a blinding light. Atheres believes there's something to this dream. Kana feathers represents Veleth's journey from Somerset. Gwar liver is a simple repast of Veleth's pilgrims. The scrying glass provides a means of looking forward, and Punavit allows one to hear the words of spirits. He believes we may be that adventurer. Gwar liver, given to us by Harold Elkcleave in the Great Bazaar. Kana feathers, purchased from Edris and Nethalin, the clothier in the market district. The scrying glass, stolen from Belron Hlaalu's bedside table. I ain't gonna verbalize the observation. And Punavit, taken from the brewery in Vol. Off to Necrom. Not only will the catacombs be a maze, but the city is a mystery to navigate as well. You're not supposed to run or jump while in the City of the Dead, out of respect. But even if the Ordinators get mad at us, what are they gonna do? They ain't gonna catch us. After 10 minutes of wandering between 2 levels of the catacombs, we find the entrance to the old caverns. Undead attack us along the way, but we press forward and gather some loot as we go. Pauldrons of Saint Veleth. 30% reflect on each. That's really good. Something tells me there's a whole set of Saint Veleth's gear that'll make what's coming up much easier. But we've already made it to the Shrine of Veleth's Passage, and we'll manage. And there's the shrine. Oh. Huh. With your willpower drained, you succumb to the ritual. I see. We need to have higher willpower. I do have some willpower potions on hand, actually. Alright, that wasn't enough. So I guess it's possible to just run in circles for a bit, and that'll get you through this gauntlet. But there's also the Thurgy-Do.
Child of Veloth, bear witness without fear, for I carry the aspect of the sinking sun that heralds the dusk, the reddening skies, the streaks of flame that dance across the land between the deepening shadows. Your journey shall be born of darkness, of absence of all. You shall be ordained with the name of the prophet, and step east to meet the dawn. The path you illuminate under your feet, and the stars that shine above, shall be your guide. Guile and sorcery shall aid you. Do not look back. Do not mourn your loss. For your journey is a new birth in a new land.
The Staff of Veleth. A simple staff with a ridiculous enchantment on it. Damage health, 250 points on strike. The drawback is you can't use it too many times before it has to recharge. Atheres takes Veleth's words to mean he must travel east. He must follow Veleth out to the sea, towards Akavir. After all, what more is there for a man to do when he's already enriched himself with all worldly pleasures? Seek what wealth cannot earn. Seek your very own soul. Atheres grants us his support, and steps down as grandmaster. As a sign of our office, he bestows upon us the High Hlaalu amulet. Resist Magicka 50%, Fortified Personality 20 points, and Sanctuary 75 points. All constant effects. That's absurd. Well, you did it, Caius. You've infiltrated House Hlaalu. You made it to the top. Now all you've got left to do is wait on more orders from the Emperor. I hear he's got something for you to do in Vardenfell. Work as a liaison for an incoming agent. You should probably find a place to... Who the hell is this? An imposter!
You won't escape me that easily.
Good. Oh, moon sugar. Well, we might as well make ourselves comfy. Have a bit of celebratory skooma, perhaps? Maybe give this skooma pipe a whirl. What's the harm in a little bit of experimentation? The faster we consume the stuff, the faster we can get back to serving the Emperor. Yeah,